In section 2 of this course, we're going to cover the two distinct topics of modular building and level design. Modular building covers how we can import a range of different mesh assets that have been built specifically to act as tileable pieces that we can connect together with each other and reuse and recycle throughout a level to construct more elaborate environments. And then we're also going to take a look at level design, that is, some ideas and concepts that we can use as well as tools within Unity for putting together believable 3D worlds. In this video, we're going to look at how we can import modular meshes into our Unity projects. These are mesh pieces like straight sections, corner sections, intersection pieces, how we can import these different tiles into a project. Then we're going to look at how we can configure the imported meshes for optimal performance. Over the next set of videos, we're going to be focusing on how to construct levels. We're going to be looking at issues surrounding level design. This means that we're going to be looking at how we can make interesting game worlds, worlds that the player will find interesting to explore. Now, to do this, we're going to be using pre-made assets that we'll use to piece together a single environment. In particular, we're going to be building an industrial interior corridor environment. And the assets included for this project are provided for you in the course companion files in the Assets to Import folder for section 2. So I'm just going to bring in these files that you can see here inside a Mac Explorer window. So inside the FBX folder, you can see we have a selection of different meshes, and we're going to be importing these into the Unity engine to piece together our level. In addition to the meshes themselves, we also have a textures folder that contains a variety of different textures that we can apply to our meshes. Now, before importing these files, I'm going to get some organization in our project. So by returning back to the Unity project, you can see that here inside the project panel, we have two folders created already. We have the scenes folder that's going to contain any environments that we build. We also have the standard assets folder that contains a number of pre-made or pre-imported libraries that I've simply imported through the standard assets. So I've simply chosen assets, import package, and I've gone ahead off screen and I've imported the cameras, characters, and utility packages to this project. So I'm not going to do that here. These have already been imported just simply by clicking on these options. What I want to do next is to import the meshes that we've seen for the environment, as well as the textures. To do this, I'm going to create some initial folders inside the project panel. So I'm going to move my cursor down to the bottom, right-click and choose Create, and then select Folder. And I'll create one called Meshes. I'll do the same thing again by right-clicking, choosing Create, and then choose Folder. And I'll create one called Materials and press Enter on the keyboard. So let's start by importing the meshes. To do that, I'm going to double-click the Meshes folder to expand that view here. And I'm going to select the meshes that I want to import. In this case, I'm just going to select the first section mesh here, hold down the Shift key on my keyboard and select the bottom one. And then I'm going to drag and drop these files into the Unity project panel. So just drag and drop. And then by hovering my cursor over this section, I'm going to release my mouse, and when I do this, Unity will automatically import the meshes here. Now, by default, it actually creates a materials folder, and if I double-click to enter that folder, I'm just going to grab these two materials and drag and drop them into the materials folder that I have specifically designated for materials. So I can go ahead and delete this one by right-clicking and choosing Delete to delete that, and I'm going to select Delete. In addition, I'm going to select the materials folder, and I'm also going to import the textures that we have into that folder too. So I'm going to drag and drop and just import those textures. So we have the textures imported alongside the materials here. If I now select, for example, the diffuse base material and select that, you can see that we get a dull gray material. Now, by default, this is the material associated to all the meshes that we have imported, but it is associated with a texture that I can see down here. So actually, I'm going to select, for example, the albedo slot to bring up the texture selection window. And I can see the texture selection here. So again, I've got the different files that I can use. And I can see a variety of different textures, but in this case, I'm just going to select the diffuse composite. That's going to be plugged into the albedo slot. In addition to that, I'm going to select the normal slot and also select my normal map here. So I'm going to select the normals. And I'm also going to select the normal map inside this project panel here and make sure that with the normal map selected inside the object inspector, I need to actually explicitly specify that the texture type is a normal map. So under the texture type field, I'm going to click on the drop down and then select normal map, and then choose apply to apply those changes. If I go back to the diffuse base material, you can see that this is now beginning to take effect, and our material is actually looking pretty good here. So I have my material design that's looking quite nice. Let's actually try this on a mesh inside the level. So if I go back to the meshes folder and I drag and drop, for example, the cross-section mesh, if I in fact select that here, so the project panel, make sure that the model tab is selected from the inspector, and we'll get a preview window where we can actually take a look at the mesh that I've just imported. So this is the environment mesh here, looking quite nice. So I'm just going to drag and drop that into the scene and release my mouse here. I'm just going to reset this back to the world origin like so and press enter on the keyboard. If I press F to frame that here and get a better view of the environment. So this is actually looking quite nice here. So you can see if I zoom in that we've actually got our environment piece loaded. So this is the cross section loaded from our modular set here. I also have other sections. For example, we have a corner section. If I drag and drop that into the level, you can see that that's good for a corner piece. We also have a curve piece, which is really the same as a corner piece, only it's curved. We then have a straight section that allows us to run from one end to the other. We also have a T section that allows us to build T connections here in the environment. And finally, we have the end section, which is really just the straight section. But you can see at the end, it has an end piece that blocks off the straight run here. So these are the different environment meshes that we've imported into the scene. And by using a combination of these meshes connected together, we can create a complex environment